Yo, we are back. Sports Bag Bros podcast is on after another week of playoff football. The NFL is highlighted right now. The NBA is
Yup.
still in the background. No college football. It's all about the NFL, and it delivered regardless.
Well, did it really? Because there was only one close game.
Well,
But the
it delivered
storylines.
storylines, exactly. That's what they're coming about. Yeah, there's storylines now. If you still want to talk college football, there are some storylines to continue talking about. But in the NFL, which is usually taking center stage right about this time of year, this is what we have. The NFL. Dak Prescott used to be elite. Well,
Hey, what I say? Show it to me in the playoffs. Don't tell me what you did. Tell me when you did it. And people want to say, "Oh, well, he threw for 400 yards," and this is bullshit. When the game was on the line, they were down 7-0. He could not connect with CD Lamb. His throws were off. Packers go down, score again. Then he throws the pick six. He was absolute garbage, trash, ass, whatever you want to call it. He even said he sucked. So
yeah,
Rex Ryan is a DICK writer for I don't know what reason, saying don't blame Dak. Well, no, not all the blame, but he was trash. So was that defense.
Now, he didn't play too well in the beginning. He got things in between, but that was after throwing those two picks. The two picks
Right.
he didn't throw the week before when it didn't matter. When it mattered, once again, Dak shows up.
He's
and
lucky.
didn't show up.
He's lucky that linebacker dropped the third one at the goal
Exactly.
line.
Yeah, exactly.
They would have scored then.
I saw that one too. I mean, you talk about a pick six and the whole nine. Now, do you blame him completely for what had happened, or do you look at CD Lamb because he just wasn't all on? And the commentary was talking about it all night about how he's just not on. These guys, something's missing. It's like one of those missing ingredients you're trying to figure out to get this thing working. It just wasn't working. And then Michael Parsons, come on, they just handled him pretty easily.
Yeah, they came up with a good game plan on Michael Parsons. They ran play action fakes in his direction, so he had to, honor the run game and couldn't just go balls out after the quarterback. But they couldn't stop the run. That was their main issue right there. I mean, I think they almost averaged a first down on first downs.
Yeah, but there's something to be said about Aaron Jones playing as well as he has in the past 3 games prior to this game. He led the NFL in the past 3 games rushing over the past 3 games. One of those instances of getting hot at the right time, and Green Bay, kind of like what Houston is doing, once they get into the playoffs, they're going to probably cause some havoc. Right now, the first salvo of havoc has happened for Green Bay just as much as it's happened for the Houston Texans. Another surprising win. You picked the Houston Texans. I went with Cleveland because I thought Joe Flacco will continue. I thought Myles Garrett would be a huge problem with the tackle issues that Houston had, but Larry Thompson's on the other side. He's not bad either.
Yeah, the Browns were almost a non-factor in that game.
That's what they were, non-factor. And they keep showing Joe Flacco staring.
Well, early they were going back and forth, and I was like, oh, we got to track me. But then Texas defense took over, and C.J. Stroud did his thing.
Bro.
But getting back to the Packers-Cowboys game, Prescott looked like the second-year guy in his first playoff game, and Jordan Love looked like the seasoned veteran.
But you know what? There should be no surprises with Jordan Love. They showed the graphic with 18 touchdowns and 1 interception. Once the Packers started getting hot, he was the reason why the Packers started getting hot. If you listen to the show throughout the entire year, in the beginning of the season, we looked at that Chicago Bears and Green Bay game, and if you didn't see the game, you looked at the stats at the end, you said Jordan Love had a great game. But for those of us who watched the game, you saw how he got there. You was like, well, a 5-yard pass here that was taken to the house, or a 10-yard pass, nothing really special with the exception of that pass that went into the end zone that was a good catch. But then 5 games later, 6 games later, I watched him again, completely different. And then he took off from there. And now we have looking like a finished product. But the benefit of what used to happen years ago in the NFL, when players were allowed to sit on the bench for about 2 years, 3 years, 4 years before getting their shot. I understand they get paid way too much money now to sit down, but Jordan Love, bro, he's here. He's the elite quarterback.
He was yesterday, but I can't come to that conclusion definitively just yet. They didn't put any pressure on him. So what happens when he has to move around and he's uncomfortable?
But you know
He
what?
was allowed to just sit back there, scan the field, move it where he felt comfortable. He looked like he didn't have a worry in the world yesterday.
Yep, he was allowed to move around when he did have that protection. But one thing you know about young quarterbacks, they usually tuck and duck, especially the quarterbacks who have the ability to do it. He didn't tuck and run like a lot of these quarterbacks, like the old Lamar Jackson used to do. We hope still is the new Lamar Jackson next week when they get a chance to play their first game of the playoffs after a bye. But when he did go to the side, he did a lot like veterans. He just looked and kept his eyes down the field and looked to make plays. And he did that a few times. When I thought he probably could have run, he just flowed and kind of went to the side laterally, kept his eyes down the field, and made the huge plays a few times.
Right. And actually, when they did get pressure, he still dropped dimes off the back foot, leaning to the side. I was like, wow, I was really impressed with him yesterday. But we got a different animal in San Francisco next week. So
this is going to give us a chance
let's pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah, pump the brakes a little bit, but up to this point, this was, I don't think, at least for me,
it was an outstanding performance, no doubt. I'm just saying, I'm not 100%. I don't think we can give him a grade just yet. The jury's still out.
Yeah, the jury may still be out, but the difference between him and a lot of these other quarterbacks who have been forced into action early is that he had the chance to sit behind Aaron Rodgers for 2 seasons before getting his opportunity now. And to see how Aaron Rodgers was prepared to be in the same quarterback room, to be in the coordinator room together, to, and put game plans to see how things are done. It seems to play out the way that it's playing out right now, using his own natural ability. And if it's just the regular natural progression, he's only going to get better as time continues to go on. And it starts with now in the playoffs, because that's when all eyes are on you. Yeah, people hear about you during the playoffs or leading up in the regular season, going to the playoffs. But when you're in the playoffs, that's where legacies are made. And so far, he's getting a pretty good start on his legacy, winning this first game on the road against Dallas, all eyes on them, now out of San Francisco against a team that's going to get after him, a team that's going to make him run and put all his skill together to try to pull it off.
Here's another thing we have to keep in mind, though. We kind of expected this from the Cowboys. It's their recent history.
Yes, it is.
And when you consider that the Packers have more victories, more playoff victories in that stadium than the Cowboys do, that says a lot. So could it be fool's gold? Not talking about Jordan Love's play, but the Packers winning how they did.
Yeah, what the Packers did could be, because going into this, I don't think there was a shortage of people who had taken Dallas, even knowing their history, even knowing Dak's history. They were hoping for the best with Dak.
They were 7.5 point favorites.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so no one was really expecting Green Bay to do what they had done. And now that they've done it and they were so definitive in doing it, there were a lot of points scored towards the end of the game that made it look closer than what it was. Now they're going out to San Francisco, playing against the 49ers, in my opinion, the number 1 seed overall, but going into the season, because the number 1 season, in my opinion, number 1 seed now is the Baltimore Ravens. But either way, San Francisco, they go in there, a hard place to play, a road game, a West Coast game. So we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. It's going to be interesting. If Jordan Love plays like that against the 49ers and Purdy does what Purdy usually does when he has all his weapons, man, we could be in for a 38-35 shootout.
Yeah. I don't think either defense could hold the other team back if all things are clicking. Now, we're looking at a bunch of ifs, but Green Bay, I mean, they've been getting progressively better throughout the season, getting themselves into the playoffs when some people thought they were completely dead. If you were looking at 2 teams that were coming into the playoffs from the AFC, the NFC North, you would normally think it was Detroit the way they started off the season, and probably Minnesota. You didn't think it was going to be Green Bay because of the so-called rebuild, and you damn sure didn't think it was going to be anybody, Chicago at the time because of the Justin Fields issues. But now, next year may be a completely different story. But as it stands right now, you're looking at Green Bay going out to San Francisco, Brock Purdy trying to put it together because he kind of let his team down a little bit in his opinion, even though he played injured last season, 100% this time, a bye week of health and the injuries or bumps and bruises that might have been on a lot of these guys, another week behind them. Now all of your weapons are back. Let's see if there's a little bit of rust before it gets together, or is this just such a good team? It doesn't matter either way.
Well, that remains to be seen. It could be that 49ers D-line too shuts down the run, or
That's
at
what I
least
was talking about.
slows it down and makes the play action less effective, which in turn would make Jordan Love less effective. And maybe the 49ers win by double digits, or at least comfortably. But that's next week. But let's recap this weekend.
Yeah, and this weekend we also had the Rams playing against the Detroit Lions. The Lions.
Got that one wrong.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I thought Detroit would win the game, but man, the Rams, bro. Look, no one expected the Rams to even be here. They're way ahead of schedule. If you looked at them from the beginning of the season and seen what they've lost, McVay keep talking every year about may come back, may not come back. He's now committed to at least the 2024 season. So now they're in the playoffs. They give a valiant effort. I mean, seriously. And this Puka Nacua, man, bro, that dude's legit. He's legit.
Yeah, he's badass. The difference was Lions were able to score touchdowns and the Rams scored field goals.
And that's what it is. And at this time of the year, coaches tell you all the time, you got to get touchdowns. You can't go down, especially if you're on the road, and get field goals, especially if you're coming from the West Coast and you got that time deficiency and your body clock isn't up to speed quite yet. You can't just get field goals. You got to make these opportunities, and you got them. Defensively, they play well. But Puka Nacua, man, setting a record for rookies with 181 yards. And you think about the receivers who've been in the playoffs, like Randy Moss, like Terrell Owens, like Jerry Rice. We're not talking about a whole season with an extra game added because it's 17 instead of 16, or 2 more games because it was 14, then it was 16. We're talking about in the playoffs, 1 game. He's done better than all of them, bro. Yeah. And we thought Randy Moss was God coming out his rookie year.
Yeah, but he also had Jake Reed and Chris Carter that Moon was throwing to. Was it Moon?
No, it was Randall Cunningham. Randall
Cunningham. There you go. Sorry. Got my older quarterbacks mixed up. Cunningham.
You know, and they both had those arms, though. And then
but, you know, Carter caught 100 balls. Jake Reed had like 85, 90 catches. So they were spreading the ball around.
Yeah, but he has Cooper Kupp, who hasn't been too healthy as of the past couple of years.
It seems like Nacua is taking over Kupp's role.
Exactly. And you know what? He's actually doing a better job in that role, man. It's almost, I don't know, man. I don't really want to say it, but he's doing, and when you watch him play, aside from the stats, you watch him play, you see the way he catches the ball, and it's after the catch. This guy has dog in him when he gets that ball, man. He's looking at he's like a little beast mode at wide receiver.
Yeah, he was mighty impressive yesterday.
And I'm hoping people are going to try to take credit for him because he's not the guy you expected to be that guy. I mean, if you look at the numbers that he had coming out of college, BYU, which hasn't really put receivers into the NFL, I'm surprised that Zach Wilson even was a number 1 first-round draft pick coming out of there. But BYU doesn't normally put those receivers out there, and he plays there. He comes to the NFL, runs a 4.57, everything that says he shouldn't even be in the NFL because everyone looks at speed so much. But then he puts up this type of a season, and I call him like Steve Largent. I think in one of these episodes, I mentioned him as like a Steve Largent. Yeah, he's in the Hall of Fame. It was a different NFL, but he's
faster than Steve Largent.
Though. Oh, he's faster than Steve Largent because Steve Largent's 5'6", 4'7", 4'6", 4'7".
4'6". Oh, I thought you were talking height.
No, 4'6", 4'7", 40-yard dash. But he had those precise routes and he had those guaranteed hands, and that's what made him the Hall of Famer he became. And he didn't even have the great quarterbacks throwing to him the way Jim Zorn throwing to him. Come on. But Nacua, man, for real, this guy is legit. I don't think he's going to fall off like the guy whose record he had broken was Bill Gorman. Groman. He beat his record. He had that huge year in 1964 for the Houston Oilers, but then pretty much fell off for any other.
They weren't playing 17 games back then neither.
Oh yeah, and they were running all the time back then, and that was an AFL game. This is before the merger. So, but anyway, and the AFL was known for their wide open play, but they kind of put all the records together now when they're trying to make a point. But either way, this is the man we're talking about now, and he's just making plays and for the future, providing injury, because now that happens in the NFL, and the likelihood of it happening kind of increases now with an extra game, and they're trying to get 18 games. So, the same people claim they care about CTE. How about we just have another 2 games and see what that CTE does then?
Yeah. But as far as the game and the Lions, I can't say I'm sold on the Lions just yet. But they did make the plays when they had to. They kept them out of the end zone. on 3 straight possessions. I think they kicked 3 field goals, and
Yeah.
that was the difference in the game. And then at the end of the game, they made the play. People are going to say, "Oh, that was pass interference. He grabbed his jersey." Yeah. That happens all the time, though.
Yeah.
And doesn't get called.
They'll get smoked, though. Those D-backs were getting smoked earlier. They'll get thrown up. And they're like, yo, just let them stay in front. And even that didn't work. Stayed in front.
Right. But, if they can make timely plays, I don't know who they're playing next week, but it looks like they're going to be at home again. Yeah. The Cowboys lost. So who knows? They might find themselves in the NFC Championship.
You know what? And if so, they may get there to play the San Francisco 49ers or maybe the Green Bay Packers. If Green Bay could do a little upsetting, we can see. But, man, I mean, Detroit, more credit to them. I think even more so at the end of the game, they showed all of these Detroit Lion fans in the audience crying, man. I mean, those are real tears because it's been so long since they won a playoff game. 1991. That's a long damn time.
But see, being a White Sox fan, like my entire life, it was just playoff failures until 2005.
Yeah.
And when they got the third out in the 9th inning to go to the World Series, I dropped to my knees, but I didn't cry. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, I just can't believe it. I felt overwhelmed, but I didn't come to the point of tears. And I'm not saying I'm throwing shade at those people, but I'm saying at least when I fell to my knees, my team was going to the championship. Yeah. They only won a playoff game, man. Come on.
Now, did you go to your knees again when they won the World Series? That's the question.
Actually, I didn't. I was just jumping up and down.
Yo, and not only, I think football elicits a little bit more emotion than baseball. I don't know, depending on who you are. Because, hey, I feel the same way about the Yankees as I feel about the Jets, as I feel about the Knicks or the Rangers in hockey. You get a little happy about it. But the Yankees have done it so much that it doesn't get old, but yeah, you know what? They make up for all the time that our other New York teams haven't done a damn thing, like the Knicks, like the Jets, like the Rangers since 1994. But anyways, yeah, man. But I like watching what Detroit and their fans are kind of looking at. Eminem was there. They had all the dignitaries out there. They didn't show Kid Rock. I don't remember seeing Kid Rock out there, man. He's usually a huge.
Oh, he's country now. He's probably down in Tennessee somewhere.
Trying to find.
Eminem had a video basically begging Stafford, just let's have this one. Just let's have this one.
Oh, come on. That's come on. You can't be begging, man. You got to win. Make sure you have the team in place to do it. You had the home field advantage. It's supposed to be in your favor.
It was tongue in cheek.
Of course.
Some sarcasm, but he made that video, and that's exactly what he said. Please let us have this one.
Well, so let's move on.
He didn't laugh when he said it.
He didn't laugh. No, he meant that. And look what happened. They got it. First one says 1991. A guy named Sanders isn't anywhere on the team. I don't even think they have a player named Sanders, but they're still there. They got that one win in the playoffs. Now they move forward to try to continue proving they belong, and their quest to get to a Super Bowl, as remote as it may seem, as according to odds makers, we'll get a chance to find out for sure, because you could only play the games, because I think between college football and now the pros, it's very difficult picking these games. Things just aren't what they used to be. You just kind of go into a game guaranteed. You look at the line, 10 points, like tonight's game, 10 points against the Steelers with Buffalo, a postponed game. Maybe that's the little oomph that they needed, that game going from one day to another for Pittsburgh to pull off a 10-point underdog status. But hey, we'll have to wait to see that game. Cleveland and the Houston Texans is the game, though.
Yeah, on Saturday when I saw the report that the game got pushed to Monday, I'm like, man, can't they just get a bunch of plows out there, clear the parking lot? But I didn't think about the stadium. I saw a picture posted on Twitter by Buffalo Bills account. There's still snow on the seats, and they have people trying to clear them out.
Yeah, as it's coming down.
And we're almost about an hour and 10 minutes away from kickoff.
And they were talking 2 to 3 inches per hour coming down. And you're up in that West Buffalo area, that West New York area in Buffalo, man, it's coming down serious. I've been up there a few years ago. And
like
the hotel
conditions.
It was and it's bitter. Exactly. So it's just, I don't know. They know how to play in that weather. And I said, it's football. You're still supposed to play, but you can't play if you can't get the snow out of the way so people can even sit and watch the games. And then for the players to even be comfortable enough to get out there and play.
They have the field cleared off. It's just the seats have a lot of snow on them. So hopefully Some people who get there later don't see a pile of snow 6 feet from the people who push their snow over onto their seat.
That Bills Mafia will still show up. They'll still show up even in that snow. These stadiums they have now have the heating systems under the grass or under the turf now these days anyways. So the snow is not going to stay under there. Even, we look back, we'll talk about the Kansas City game in a minute, how it went down there. That's a game I didn't even really get a chance to watch because it was on Peacock. I wasn't even thinking about that. And I'm like, you know what? Should I order this Peacock? Yeah, there is a boxing match coming on tonight.
For one game. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, right. But I guess they're just putting their toe in the water for this one. But
so I can tell you what happened. Mahomes, he found a receiver who wasn't dropping the ball. He just kept throwing it to him. Rashee Rice, yeah. He looked like a baller on Saturday.
He had to look like a baller, man, because everybody else is dropping balls. So
even Kelsey, who had decent numbers, I think he had 3 drops.
But in that kind of weather, man, I can understand, bro. I mean, that kind of weather. I've played in cold weather before, and man,
I was just bothered that they made so much on the broadcast out of Andy Reid's icicles on his mustache. It was annoying too. They kept showing it. I'm like, dude, just get a towel, man. Wipe that off, dude. But no, he had the icicles.
Bro, it's cold out there. It's freezing. What was the temperature?
Wipe your face. Wipe your face.
It freezes back up. Wipe your face. It freezes back up. It's coming from body temperature out to the cold.
I guess he had to have a level of focus that not everybody has because it would annoy the shit out of me. I know. Give me that towel. Give me that towel. Give me that towel. I mean, I would not allow that.
Man, but what was the temperature once the game did start, or the lowest?
I don't know the actual temperature, but the wind chill factor was like minus 35. I think
that's serious. I did minus 13, man. I'm on 35, and even then, that burned. That kind of wind burned.
You had Dolphins fans out there with no shirts. I'm like, idiot. Yeah. Your team's losing, and now you're gonna get some type of.
Now we should just pull up live, go to the Miami Herald and pull up some obituaries live and see what's going on. Some of those dudes are dead now, man. Some dead fish. But
it was weird because early it looked like the weather conditions were going to affect the passing game all game. Mahomes was throwing balls 3 yards over receivers' heads to the right. I mean, like throws you don't ever see Mahomes make. But on the second possession, he figured it out. And it seemed like he wasn't affected at all. You can't say the same about Tua.
Those defense, coming from Hawaii, then going to Alabama, then going down to Miami, coming up there to that kind of weather. He's never felt that kind of weather in his life. And I'll tell you what, you don't have to just come from Miami or even Hawaii to not have felt that kind of weather in your life. You could come from Alabama and Tennessee and never have felt that kind of weather in your life. So, you see how it would affect him. I thought the running game would be such a big thing for them, so he didn't have to throw the ball as much. Throwing the ball to these receivers in that kind of weather, it had me thinking about Brett Favre and how they talked about he broke some of his receivers' hands because he's just loading up on the 10-yard line for a touchdown, busting their hands up. So when it gets that cold, it's even worse. I mean, it's ridiculously worse to catch a ball with numb hands. And then not to mention going back into the locker room and then your hands throwing out. They burn it.
Did you see Mahomes' helmet crack?
Nope, I had not.
Oh, he scrambled. He got down inside the 10, and he put his head down and went helmet to helmet with the defender.
Bro.
And a big chunk of his helmet just broke off.
Wow.
And he didn't know it. The refs didn't see it. He played at least one play, if not two, before they saw it. And then they forced him to get a backup helmet. But his red helmet had a black spot right here.
Oh, Mike Singletary action when he was breaking helmets to Baylor, man. That's what he was doing.
But yeah, that's how cold it was. That helmet to helmet, it cracked.
I'm surprised they haven't made a story about it, using that as
there's been all kind of memes. The first one I saw was he should have been better protected and had Allstate. He could have been protected from mayhem.
Hey, it fits. You know what I mean? Since when did they start letting crackheads into games? I don't know. But yeah, man, if it's going down like that, you have the elements that's already making it cold enough. You have your body temperature head inside the helmet. Everything's kind of colliding. And then in a moment like that, well, it would break. I guess we need some scientists to come up with something like that. But back to our game with C.J. Stroud going against Joe Flacco, as the Browns were just obliterated 45-14 when they were supposed to have done something instead of nothing. Well, will the real Joe Flacco please stand? And he couldn't because he was busy getting sacked.
Yeah. But before that, he threw the interceptions and the pick six. The Packers-Cowboys game was eerily similar. The Browns actually had the lead, so not that similar. But as far as how it got away from them with the interceptions and the pick six.
Yeah, the pick sixes. But, C.J. Stroud doing a lot of what he's done all season long. He's not going away. I don't think there's going to be too much changing with him other than getting better because you're going to add more players around him. And I guess because of the player he is, it may make some of these free agents, wide receivers, may want to come to Houston now instead of avoiding Houston. Not knowing because he's doing better now than Deshaun Watson ever did when he was in Houston. I don't want to make that comparison too early, but going by the eyeball test, he looks better as a player. He reads defenses better as a player. Deshaun Watson, I've always thought the trajectory in him was going to be good moving forward. And I like watching him from game to game get better. C.J. Stroud came on the scene better and only got better as the season continued. Went off for 2 weeks after that Jets game, gave him a concussion. Out 2 weeks, comes back, doesn't miss a freaking step.
Right.
Picks it up, and then in the playoffs, you're expecting it's really going to happen now, man. These Browns are coming. And they came and went. That's it.
They made the Browns look like they didn't know what they were doing on defense.
They did.
Myles Garrett was a non-factor. C.J. Stroud did pretty much what he wanted to do. It was very impressive. It was very impressive. And you mentioned C.J. Stroud's going to get better. He should. And I was actually thinking before you said it that that's going to be an attractive destination for wide receivers, free agent wide receivers.
Why not? You have Nico Collins. No one really knows who he was until C.J. Stroud allowed you to know who he was. And you look at the defense going in, and that's the reason why I picked Cleveland. We had the Myles Garrett situation, knowing that he can get after the quarterbacks, knowing that there was an offensive lineman, Titus Howard, missing from Houston, but Laramie Tunsil, another offensive lineman that's great. I mean, he's very good as a tackle. And the irony is you're expecting all of these sacks because of missing players, and Cleveland doesn't get any sacks, whereas Houston gets 4 sacks. Hey, Willie Anderson going in there just as well. Hey, look at this guy. Willie Anderson Jr. goes in, gets his sacks, but another piece of the puzzle that came along with C.J. Stroud in this past draft. They had those picks in the early first round. They made the picks, and these guys are paying early results right away. Same situation your team may end up in this draft right now, 2 first picks in the first top 10. And if you talked about getting that 9th pick, bro, if they could get 3, if they're getting rid of Justin Fields, and you have 3 number 1 picks in the top 10, you got to get it. If you see the way this happened, you got to do it.
Yeah, you would think. But they actually already have 9. That's their pick. The 8, if the Falcons trade for Fields,
the 8th pick, you meant. Yeah.
It would be the 8. But I don't know if the Falcons would give up a first round. This is what I saw, right? I watched the Bears play against the Browns, and the Browns looked like a great defense. Then I saw C.J. Stroud and the Texans play the Browns this weekend. They did not look like a great defense. So why would I give up a first rounder for Justin Fields?
I don't know. Maybe somebody, and this is a league of egos, and these coaches or a coach out there believes they're the difference between the quarterback that should have been a top quarterback or should have been a quarterback that did well in the NFL and their system as opposed to where he came from. It's always a coach with that kind of an issue going in there. It's like when Tim Tebow came out and the Denver Broncos took him, they always believed that they were going to be the ones to kill all the naysayers. Tim Tebow couldn't do this and that. You bring him in, and he doesn't do this and that. Well, he did get that win in the playoffs against the Steelers, but he also dug himself in the hole in order to have to get out of it. So, yeah, he just never was that player you expected at the quarterback spot. But that's the egos of these coaches who believe it's their system or them. They're going to be the reasons why this player became what he didn't become somewhere else. We now still have Trey Lance down in Dallas. What's going to happen with this guy? I mean, Dak had a career year this year.
So, in my opinion, Dak has shown you what he's going to do, right?
What his ceiling is.
Right. And if he's going to choke in the playoffs year after year after year, I got to move on from him. And McCarthy looked like a deer in headlights yesterday. He had no answer for what the Packers were doing. He got to go too, in my opinion.
And the irony behind that, Jerry Jones said pretty much the same thing. I don't know what I want to do. I don't have any answers for this. And when it comes down to Mike McCarthy, he's like, oh, he just, he just doesn't know right now. Now, when an owner says that, especially when Jerry Jones says that, he doesn't hide behind anything.
I mean, they're saying on TV, there's 20 teams out there that would hire Mike McCarthy. I don't see why. He had no clue yesterday. When Michigan came out pounding the ball against Washington, I texted my friend, DeBoer getting out coached. They're getting punished on the line. He's like, well, what do you want them to do? They'll put more in the box and then they'll start passing. Well, there's other ways to stop the run than just line up 7 defensive linemen. You run blitzes, stunts, whatever. And Washington figured out how to slow them down. They got back into the game.
And that was the coaching.
You did not see that from McCarthy or his defensive coordinator. Whoever, you didn't see it from nobody in Dallas yesterday.
And they have the pieces to do those things and kind of execute those adjustments they need to make. And Michael Parsons was the same guy he was in the first half, ineffective in the second half. No sacks for the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys did have some sacks, but I'm looking at the other game. But the defense just didn't show up, and at any point, because now you're talking about all the points that went up against them throughout the game. The points they got at the end was pretty much those garbage points you typically get when you're just playing catch up and you just keep throwing the ball, keep throwing, and hoping for the best.
I dare say once they got down 20-0 or after the pick six, whatever the score was, they threw in the towel. They're like, oh, we ain't coming back. They gave up.
Wow, and a playoff game, conceded. And each one of them would say, there's no way in hell we gave up. They'll get upset about someone even mentioning them giving up, and then they'll look at the final score and see how many points
they got to do is watch the plays.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, going by the scoreboard, you just can't say, oh, they gave up, because you don't realize where those points came from, those garbage points towards the end of the game. Man, I think there could have been more points put up if Green Bay wanted to put up more.
Well, yeah, they were just worried about running out the clock.
Yeah, that's it, because you couldn't stop them on the ground. The air attack was just beating them up. Right. Jordan Love just had all day to throw the ball.
Their lead was so large, they're like, as long as we don't turn it over, we just run the ball 3 times, punt it. Run the ball 3 times, punt it. They're not going to catch us, and they didn't.
And, Dallas was so worried about what Philadelphia is going to do, and Philadelphia worried about what Dallas is going to do. Now Dallas is out, Philadelphia may be on the brink of being out, going by their late season collapse.
Man, wouldn't it be crazy if the Eagles win like 42-10 tonight?
Woo! I didn't have that on the menu, but you know what?
Eagles fans would be like, all is right with the world now.
You know what? And that exactly, the playoffs is a whole new season. If you had some stumbles along the way, it's always nice to get hot in the playoffs. It's not just before the playoffs, as the Houston Texans have done. But Philadelphia taking on Tampa Bay tonight. Baker Mayfield not getting any of the respect I think he deserved this season, because they played in a pretty weak division, but they became the champions of that division. That's why they're at home now, playing against a team that has a better record than they have. And Baker Mayfield, with his 28 touchdowns and 10 interceptions on the season, quietly gotten them to that point. I don't think they could have done it with another quarterback, at least that was available. Perhaps right. Carson Wentz, I don't know. Baker Mayfield got it, though.
Right, and that's the thing. If I'm a Philly fan, like, our defense hasn't been stopping anybody.
No one.
Baker's had it going. He's in a groove. It could be the Buccaneers are the team that wins 42-10. I don't know. We'll see.
A nice warm day down in Tampa, though. So they'll be out there. The pirate ship is going to be blasting. It's going to be something. I mean, a nice game to watch. And we'll just have to see, does Jalen Hurts show anything in this game? Because this has been a bad season, especially after getting that huge contract that he had gotten in the offseason. I mean, people expected him to just kind of like pick it up from there, because this was a reward for getting them to the Super Bowl. And he doesn't want to be the next Dan Marino who gets to the Super Bowl and then that's it. He thought this was going to be a common occurrence, and this is it. Getting knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, or if he gets past this, still doesn't have a chance at the Super Bowl because the teams in front of him are so much better. Man, it's going to be just as much an issue for him. I think the pressure's off of someone like Baker Mayfield. The pressure's really on Jalen Hurts and the rest of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I agree. We'll find out if I don't want to say if they have any heart, but did the wheels fall off and today is just going to be a massacre, or do they show heart and grit and toughness and come out and pull out a victory on the road?
I mean, I think the reality is Philadelphia is the better team, so them winning shouldn't be a surprise. They're the better
think
team.
that, but not the way they've been playing.
No, not the way they've been playing, exactly. But you would like to believe, even though I know they don't turn it on and off, you would like to believe with the playoffs at stake, and you do not want to go back to Philadelphia if you're an Eagles fan to listen to that nonsense those fans and that radio station, every media outlet in Philadelphia is going to be talking about. They're busy getting happy about what's happening with the Philadelphia 76ers. They don't need the Philadelphia Eagles ruining the parade, even though they were there first. Yeah, if I'm a Philly player, I don't want to go back and hear that nonsense and it doesn't end.
It could all come down to how it starts off. If the Buccaneers get the ball, drive down the field easily and score, and now the doubt creeps in like, oh man, here we go again. But if they get him out 3 and out, maybe Reddick gets a sack and he's fired up and defense is pumped up. They're going to have to get off to a good start early. If they don't, that doubt creeps in, and that human nature is hard to overcome once it creeps in your head, man.
Yeah, the human nature is hard, but humans also have pride, and this is a game of pride as well. This is a team that went to the Super Bowl last year, just missed winning the Super Bowl. A lot of it, the same team kind of came back for the most part. Javon Hargraves leaves and goes to San Francisco, but there got to be some pride there. And I know there's been talked about in the locker room. There has to have been talked about in the locker room. What has happened? Okay, let's put this behind us, boys. What happened in the regular season? We did start off hot enough to give us a cushion to fall apart at the end of the season and still get into the playoffs, even though you lost to the Giants. But this is a whole new season in the playoffs. And like Bill Parcells used to say, I just want to get to the tournament. They're in the tournament now, and they're playing against a team that isn't exactly formidable, but still live. And that's Tampa Bay. Philadelphia, across the board, man for man, is the better team. But that chemistry or whatever it is that kind of kept them from winning as often as they probably should have closed the season with wasn't there. Another road game, the same road situation they had with the Giants. Tampa's better than the Giants. Let's see what happens with this game tonight. I mean, it's all on Jalen Hurts. I mean, you want to be the man with all that money. You want to be the quarterback. You know what blame comes with the quarterback position. Live up to it.
Yeah, I'm of the belief there's something going on there where guys are just not on the same page.
In a locker room?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to figure it out. So I got the Buccaneers tonight.
Yeah, you know what?
Again, unless they get off to a strong start, maybe even a strip sack or an interception, set up the offense for an easy score. If they fall behind, I think it's over.
You know what? I have to say, I still believe in Jalen Hurts. I think that, man, last year wasn't a fluke, and a lot of what he did until the end of the season wasn't a fluke. I think, that, I don't know, going into the playoffs and having a different mindset and being there and have done that before playoff-wise, getting all the way to the big game, still losing, I think that still kind of helps this team out. Not everybody's back, but you know what? DeAndre Swift as a running back is another key player for that team, running as well as he had, nearly 5 yards of carry this season. I think, adding him, and you already know wide receiver-wise, you had Devontae Smith on that team, who's finally starting to stand up and be that first-round pick that they picked a couple of years ago coming out of Alabama, that electrifying player, pretty much picking up for Deshaun Jackson and where he used to be at Philadelphia. So, yeah, I think that it's playoff time, man. This is when you become a legacy player. And Jalen Hurts had a taste of it. These other new guys want to be part of it. Let's see what happens.
That's true. I just don't. I don't believe in Hurts and the Eagles. Not the way they've been playing. I don't think
you have every right.
I don't think a week is enough to turn around what's been going on there. So yeah, I got the Buccaneers maybe 27-13.
Well, because they haven't shown any evidence of things getting better. In fact, I thought they would do that against the Giants. I was like, you know what? What helps an
it's
ailing
the team you get well against, right?
That's what I'm saying. What helps an ailing team trying to go to the playoffs, trying to win the division, with the division on the line, and you still lost to the Giants, man? Come on. I mean, is it really smacking the Giants in the head? No. You look at what the Giants have done all season long, the different quarterbacks they've gone through all season long, and you got beat by Tyrod Taylor, man. bro. I mean, he's been around for over 10 years, so it's not like he's just a nothing. But you're not supposed to lose to that when you have Super Bowl or even playoff or division champion aspirations.
Right.
But that's what happened. So yeah.
So let's get to this game coming up here in a little bit. Steelers and Bills.
Steelers and the Bills, man. I really don't know what to say about these Steelers, man. They should. First of all, didn't you hear the story about Mike Tomlin thinking about it at the end of the season whether or not he should continue coaching?
No,
Kind of nonsense is this?
I didn't see that. No.
That's what I heard over the weekend. I was like, wait a minute. Is somebody saying this for him, or is he really saying this because they're claiming that there's some pressure on him that if he loses, he's going to decide at the end of the season. And they had the matter of fact, they showed it yesterday on NBC. They had like a deer in the headlights look when he was just standing there with his eyes open, and it was talking about him saying that he may just he may think about it after the season. He's going to discuss it. I mean, from the outside looking in, there's nothing to discuss. You one of the greatest coaches ever.
Maybe he just feels he's done in Pittsburgh. Like maybe he feels unappreciated. Now
that part I can understand.
Some people were calling for his head earlier in the season, and lo and behold, he gets them in the playoffs. But I'm sure there's a lot of fans out there, even a lot of so-called experts who think the Steelers are trash. Yet they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're in the playoffs. And you know what? And the Steelers,
Josh Allen, Mr. Turnover over there. You never know.
And they haven't been that good this season. The stats show they haven't been this good this season. I know. I think up until like game 9 or 10, they haven't outgained the opposition in the entire season up to that point. But they were still winning games. You look at the quarterback situation, man. Oh, it was just terrible. But they were still winning games. And now you want to, not you, but people were ridiculing Coach Tomlin. They ridicule Coach Tomlin saying, okay, he got to the playoffs, he's above 500, so that's better than the Super Bowl. Just the disrespect, and for them to continue to say that the championship that he did had, the championship that he did get was coming from Bill Cowher's players. Bro, this is the NFL. This isn't college, man.
And that's what I get.
Other coaches' players.
That's what I don't get. You got this guy. Never had a losing season. He never had the best quarterback in the league. He had Roethlisberger for a number of years, maybe top 5 quarterback. But since Roethlisberger, who have they had? And he doesn't get respect. Nobody talks about him being a top 5 coach in the game right now, maybe top 10 all time. Yet Belichick, people want to call him the greatest coach of all time, but he has a losing record without Brady. That makes no sense to me. None.
Well, I mean, I have to go by what's there. And he had Brady that was part of the team. It's like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do they get 4 Super Bowls without Terry Bradshaw? In this case, yeah, because that team was still that good. But, yeah, I look at it the same way with Bill Belichick. Hey, he had him, so we can't go by when he didn't have him. It's nice to make a point of contention just to use that.
If we go that way, then, okay, he's 1, Wash is 5, Noah is 4. I mean, it's just going by the Super Bowl victories?
No, not the Super Bowl victories. I mean, but that is a kind of a gauge that's important when you're talking about the inordinate amount of Super Bowls he's won.
No, but
we talk about players with 3 and 4 Super Bowls. We're just putting them as gods in the Mount Rushmore of football. This guy has more.
We're talking about coaches who had success in different locations. Belichick failed in Buffalo. I mean, Cleveland. Failed before Brady, failed after Brady.
But everything in between was a long time in between. You need players. This is a players' league. It's always been. It's about the players. You can't put a bunch of bad players out there and have a great coach coach them and expect
basically one player.
I mean, look, we could go back to even college football and look at what the Nick Saban do at Michigan State. Barely over 500. He didn't start winning anything until he came down to LSU, got his championship there, and then he leaves, goes to the Dolphins, and we see what happened there. Comes back to Alabama. Now he has his legacy because you don't have a legacy like he has right now with just winning at LSU. He took over for George Perlis up at Michigan State.
At least he did it in two different schools.
He did it two different schools, exactly. Different in college, but just the gist of a coach has players. You get a lot better players at LSU than you're ever going to get at Michigan State.
He's smartened up though.
And you learn along the way.
He's smartened up from his days in Michigan State because at Michigan State he scheduled Nebraska and got 2 ass whippings.
But he got to a point where he could just pick and choose anybody he wanted because his teams were going to win a lot more times than not when he went to LSU and then at Alabama. But before he got to any of those, he was there at Michigan State, took over for the great George Perlis, whose record itself wasn't that great either. But yeah, man, it's the players that's going to typically make the coach a great coach. The coach.
Hold on. I got to pause. Back on.
Yeah. But Nick Saban, hey, nothing, no shade towards him, not taking anything away from him. But I'm looking at players always making the coach. That's anywhere you go. Jerry DiNardo was looked at as a solid coach once upon a time. You know why? Because he had Kevin Falk on his team at LSU. He came from Vanderbilt. This guy got hired at a job he should have never gotten. So Bill Belichick in the same situation. He just happened to be the coach when
I'm just saying you can't call him the GOAT.
Yeah, but look at the defense, though. They weren't just winning with offense. Defensively, look at the plays that they had.
No, man, we talked about this last week. We're just rehashing.
Yeah, exactly.
We say the defense. I said, well, he had film of the practices. He had.
There's always something. There's always something.
Let's go. Who's winning Buffalo? Who's winning this playoff game coming up in a bit?
So this playoff game, Pittsburgh and Buffalo. I'm thinking it's a 10-point line. I'm not looking at lines these days because they've been wrong too many damn times right about now. Josh Allen's inconsistency is another thing that's been wrong, but they're still in Buffalo, and this is not a team that you're going to scare. Pittsburgh isn't a team you're going to scare because of weather or elements, because they're from a cold weather area. So I'm still going to go with Buffalo just because Pittsburgh has no offensive punch at all. If you're trying to win with Marco Rudolph, that's not going to cut it. I mean, Mitch Trubisky's there. Kenny Pickett's on the team. None of those quarterbacks would be the reason why they would win the game if they were available in their entirety.
That defense is going to need at least 3 to 4 turnovers.
At least. And you know what? In this kind of weather, that's a possibility.
That's true.
That's a possibility. Depends on how that field looks.
I think Buffalo's going to come out committed to the run game. You know, that's how they pounded Dallas.
James Cook, yeah.
They if they're, I'm not going to say if they're smart, but weather conditions, like, you know what, let's just come out there and pound the ball. If they can't stop us, we just keep pounding the ball. And Josh Allen may only throw the ball 10 times today.
Yeah, you know what? I remember Bill Belichick did the same thing with Mac Jones a couple of years ago when he didn't throw the ball pretty much at all because of the wind blowing. But if you can establish that running game like James Cook can run the ball, well, maybe you could probably pull it. I mean, maybe you could kind of build a game plan around him under those elements and pull it off. But Josh Allen runs the ball well too. So even if he's going to look like he's throwing, he's a hell of a threat still running. He's a legitimate threat. He's not just –
he might run for 100 yards.
You know what I'm saying? That's what he can do. He's big, he's strong, he's fast, and he just happens to be your quarterback. You know, he's a tight end playing quarterback. So, yeah, man, I just don't see any way Pittsburgh could win. But you know what? I wasn't seeing too many ways that Houston Texans could beat Cleveland either, and we saw how that worked out. So I don't know. I just got to go with Buffalo. It's the common sense thing to do, not even taking Vegas into consideration with their 10-point line. It's just that they're the better team, and Pittsburgh has too many issues where it matters most, quarterback in particular.
Yeah, I'm going with the Bills also. Yeah,
so, yeah.
Let's say 23-10.
Yeah, 23-10. 10 points sounds about right. 10, 13 points for Pittsburgh because, I mean, they just end up getting close to the end zone. But is the field goal really going to go through with that wind up there in Western New York? That's another part that I didn't think about. But, hey, I think we spoke enough about these pro teams and the way they're going about business, man. There's been so much going on in the college world that we could close down with. You know, you have that Kalen DeBoer, I felt was no surprise as a quarterback, the coach now for the Alabama Crimson Tide. A lot of players going into the transfer portal. You could expect that. That's the way college football is right now. And I think going into this season, though, coming up in 2024, the top two teams, in my opinion, is going to be Georgia and with a second-year quarterback, second-year starting quarterback in Carson Beck, and Ohio State, now that players are returning there, because Kyle McCord didn't have to be the top player, and they were still getting their yards and doing well and stuff against Michigan. You know, Henderson's coming back at the running back spot. They got defensive players coming back. Yo, look at it, early peek into next season. Georgia, Ohio State, 1-2, 2-1 doesn't freaking matter. But these coaches changing, and I think people disrespecting DeBoer for what reason? Your team just got beaten. This guy came to a 4-8 team. In his first year, made them 11-2. Second year, went to a national championship game, 14-1. The guy now, even with the loss to Michigan, only has 12 losses in his damn career as a freaking football coach. Give the guy respect, give him credit. It's still going to require players, but he seems to know how to put these players in place. And what he did against Michigan's running game, at least, when that bend but don't break defense was able to stiffen up a bit, shows his coaching ability.
Right. And, they may be losing recruits at the moment, but I'm sure he'll bring some people from Washington with
Yes.
him.
Yep.
We'll see how he does. That's a tough act to follow, though.
Oh,
That's
bro,
a very tough act to
I don't
follow.
envy him. But if there's a coach to do it, that can at least do something, stop the bleeding per se, because Nick Saban hasn't won a championship in the Nick Saban time frame like every other year. Since he hasn't done that, if this guy could come in and do just that, bro, they pretty
You
much.
see what Reggie Bush said?
Oh, Reggie Bush. He thinks NIL ran him off, man, because he can't have control. When did he ever have to have control? He was the Pied Piper. People were coming to Nick Saban. He played his music, which was national championships, SEC championships, and players going to the league, which he holds the record for sending the most first rounders, and players came. Period.
I don't know for sure, but I told you, he whined about NIL, he whined about the portal, and now he lost in the playoffs. And even though he was given a gift, and he says it was too hard for him. He's not a young man anymore.
Yeah, the dynamic of it. I mean, you're chasing players anyway in the recruiting process. Now you're chasing players.
If they had won and beat Michigan, you think he's going to retire
at 72 years old? Yeah, I think that's a possibility. I mean, when is the last time a coach did retire on top? I mean, I don't know. I can't remember the last time a coach retired on top. Osborne at 72 years old. I mean, he was old at the time too, wasn't he? Yeah. I mean, Joe Paterno, you couldn't get him out of there. Bobby Bowden was forced out. So these guys weren't even getting a chance to leave on their own terms. But in fact, Joe Paterno was forced out. But just looking at what Nick Saban has done and what he, the way you recruit these players, man, I hate talking about it, but I've dealt with players during the recruiting process, and I've seen how some of this recruiting goes. And even then, when it was so rudimentary back then, it wasn't as bad as it is now that you add NIL. And when you add Alabama to the NIL mix, look at the money these players from Alabama has been getting. They're down the totem pole. They're far down the totem pole in terms of money that players from Alabama had gotten while NIL existed, while they existed. So it wasn't like they were getting players who were breaking the bank. Bryce Young was a Heisman Trophy winner, so he got his money from the Heisman House and things like that. But chasing these players now, you got to have an allotment of money available to go after these free agent players, and that's what they are. Everybody has their hand out. They claim Travis Hunter was getting money from Jackson State. When's the last time Jackson State had any money to give? They still try to stay fully accredited,
So we do got to talk a little NBA. Who comes back tonight?
Yeah, I heard rumors. Yeah, he's back. So, do you still think right now
make a difference?
Is this a long enough suspension? I think the All-Star break would have been good enough.
I don't know. So, how many games did it turn out to be?
Man, 14, 15.
I think that's fair. If they had just come out and said 14 game suspension, I said anything under 12 would be weak. So, sticking to what I said in the beginning, at 14, okay, that's about right.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, just looking at the NBA as a whole now, and trying to, like, oh my God, you saw the blowout between the Bucks and the Celtics the other night.
Oh yeah,
oh my God,
they were coming off a tough
exactly. Overtime
before.
Yeah, against Minnesota, and they won that game. But man, they started off badly, and it got worse from there. I mean, God.
Their coach, he was right for pulling them. You're not coming back from 38-5, 40.
Nah, man.
Hey, take the rest of the night off, guys.
Yeah.
I see nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Now the Rockets losing another game by 60.
60, yeah. Come on now.
There's something wrong there.
Hold my keg of beer. Forget the beer. Hold my keg of beer for that one. Holy smokes. I saw that blowout. And the Rockets is one of those teams that had this young talent that's supposed to be doing well this season, and they were. But to get blown out like that, man.
Yeah, I don't know if they have any
cohesive.
They may not have any cohesiveness. Maybe they don't get along. Maybe everybody wants to play hero ball. I don't know. I haven't really watched the Rockets game, so I can't really talk about it. But I know losing 2 games by 60 points, being the only franchise in history to do that, There's
Something's
major
wrong in that
issues
locker
there.
room.
Yeah, major
Gotta be.
issues.
I can't even call it, man. I don't know what to say about that because, God. And then, today you have games. That Memphis is playing and Atlanta's playing. Martin Luther King Day, so Memphis is where MLK passed and Atlanta's where he was born. So they try to make that a point every time they play this game. And so, so they get it on right now. So let me see what's going on with that game. Well, they'll be playing a little later. Memphis right now, they're not playing until 6:00 Eastern time against Golden State. And then you have Atlanta. Right now, they're ahead of the Spurs, 35-16. They normally have a good game. Trae Young has a pretty fire game right about this time of year. So they're holding serve and doing what they're doing right now against San Antonio, 35-16 after the first quarter.
Did you see the Bulls Ring of Honor the other night?
No, I had not.
So they honored Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, I guess some other players. I didn't watch myself, but they also included Jerry Krause. And so they had his widow there in his honor, and the crowd booed him.
Booed the widow?
Booed so badly that she started to cry.
Bruh, no, I didn't see that, man.
Yeah, she cried. And Casey King, Bulls announcer, and former Bulls player on those championship teams, he said that was the most shameful thing he's ever seen from the Chicago fans.
Man.
My thing is, if you're going to honor those championship teams and you decide you're going to include Jerry Krause, somebody should have said, whoa, wait a second. Krause didn't get along with the players and a lot of fans didn't like him. Maybe don't include it when you're honoring Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. I'm sorry. That was bad from the start. I'm not saying the fans were right for booing him. I would not have booed. I would have stayed quiet. But if you were there watching the team, those teams, living in Chicago, reading the papers, listening to the radio, you know what went on. And if you're part of that organization, you know firsthand what went on. You should have known better than to even include him with those guys.
Man, that's a bad look. I don't know if to say a bad look for the Chicago Bulls fans or just a bad look for her, putting her in that spot, man. But bro, I didn't hear anything about it. I mean, I haven't seen any memes or anything about it.
I don't know, but then I don't know their children's situation. If they have any kids or if they have a son. If I was the son, I was like, Mom, hold up. Well, you want to be there.
Somebody got to do it.
Hey, let me go in your place. Let me go. And if the fans boo me, better than you, Mom. So, yeah, where are the children in this situation?
Yeah, that's pretty bad, though, man.
They should have known something.
It gotten that bad. She was out there crying, man. That's, bro, I don't even know what to say. That's pretty speechless. I was pretty speechless with that. You know what I mean? I got to go look for the video now, man.
Making light of it, and I feel bad for her.
That's what I'm saying. I got to get the video and see how this went down, man.
She wasn't the one making the dumb comments. I want to build a team without Michael Jordan. But she was the brunt of it. She took the brunt of it.
Took the brunt of it, man. And he's not here to stick up for his own wife, man. Come on, bro. You saw it coming. Man, anyway, I guess we got to end on that. The playoffs are beginning, man.
Yeah, got to get to the boob tube.
Yep, the Buffalo Bills taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers up in Orchard Park, New York, which is cold as hell this time of year. And we saw the weather reports anyway with the snow and the weather completely inclement up there at this moment. Even for a football game, that's why it was delayed. But I think the same result was going to be what it is. Buffalo should be able to beat them relatively easy, even though nothing's easy in the NFL. Well, tell that to Green Bay and tell that to the Houston Texans, man. The numbers they put up and prevented other teams from scoring against them. They made it look easy. Well,
but you mentioned how cold it is up there. I don't know how cold it is there, but here in my area in Chicagoland, been -7. I can't even open my back door. It's a sliding door and it's frozen shut. Yeah, so now my dog's got to go out to the front.
Man,
crazy.
66 degrees here in Jacksonville. The last time I saw it started off cool, but it got warm. It got warm as time went on, and it looks like, hey, we're going to we did have some of that nippy weather a little bit earlier this week and even last week. This afternoon just happens to be warm. I haven't looked at the forecast for the rest of the week.
Nippy weather, 66. Come on, man. I just talked about it was
47. 47, a little nippy for Jacksonville. Come on,
okay,
man.
Yeah, I get that. 47. You said 66.
Oh, it was 66 today, but I was saying last week we did have some nippy weather, which was 43, waking up to 43, 47, and that kind of thing.
If it's 47 tomorrow, there'll be people with cutoffs and shorts in Chicago.
At the basketball court.
I'm not lying, man. They will be. Light hoodies, man. That's like spring weather to us, bro.
Whew. I hope this isn't what the summer's going to be about, but that's bias. I'm Trav, the Sports Bag Bros podcast will be back at you on Thursday. As you may or may not know, we're here just 2 days a week, but less is more. We'll catch you on Thursday. Deuces.
Yes, that is Dr. J in the background.
Dr. J, yeah. Not biased, but Dr. J.